So whenever you're tapping maple trees, there's a sweet spot of when you want to tap them. Whenever it goes from a low temperature to a high temperature, that's when the sap flows. A few days ago it was below 0, and now today it's above 50 degrees. So right now the sap is flowing in the trees, and we can go ahead and drill the holes and feed them into buckets. So if possible, you want to tap on the side of the tree where the sun is shining, because that's where the sap will be flowing the most. You can see last year we drilled the hole right there. We want to move a little bit off that line of the tree because we don't want it to crack the tree. So probably about right here is where we're going to drill the hole. And whenever you're drilling it, make sure you're drilling it just a little bit of an angle so the sap will be able to flow. You sure can see that sap starting to flow out now, and it is a warm day for this. So we have this maple tap thing here. It's a little plastic piece that will go into the tree that you just drilled the hole for, and then it feeds down here into the bucket where the bucket fills up. Then you can take it off, and we have a lid to keep the rainwater out. And we're gonna go ahead and put that in the hole and then use the back of the drill just to tap it in a little bit. Don't go way too far because you might crack the tree. And it sure is amazing that it was actually below 0 a few days ago. So if the tree is big enough, you can put 2 taps on the tree, and this one is. So we're gonna put one about right here. Even though the sun isn't shining on it, it'll still give us more sap. Since we actually have the bucket here close enough, we're gonna put this one into the same bucket. So the tube wouldn't reach to the other bucket, but actually we're going to be running a test whether the sunny side of the tree produces more sap than the shady side of the tree. Just to make it easier, we paint a red dot on the tree, so the next year we can look out through the forest and see which trees are the maples. So if you don't have any of the blue ones, which we don't have too many of those, you can just use like red PEX tubing. You just have to kind of plan out where you're gonna drill the hole a little bit more because they aren't quite as flexible. So I think right there would be good. So for the PEX tubing, we have a little bit bigger of a bit, and we spray paint red until there's about 2 inches of drill bit left. So we know how far to go in, so whenever you get to the spray paint, you know your hole is gonna be 2 inches deep. You can already see it start to drip with this bigger hole. So of course the drill dies right when it's all the way in the hole, so we need to go get a spare all the way back down at the house because we didn't bring a spare back. So while you're out in the woods here, you can see some really cool things. This is a woodpecker hole. You definitely can hear them, but you don't see them very often. But if you look at the trees, you can see where they've been. And you can already see it starting to drip out. If you really wanted, you could put the end of the tube right into the tree, but if you wanted a little bit more flexibility, just use these elbow pieces here, and then we can tap those in and then attach the tube to that. We can put the tube on, and you sure can really see that dripping, so we got to get this thing on fast. And there we go. Since this tree is big enough, we can put 2 taps in, just like about right there. Now we can go ahead and tap it in. You can see this big old thorn bush with these giant sharp sticks on it. This is not fun to get caught on. Here's some deer tracks. You can see the size difference between the big bit and the small bit. This was the old way that we used the big bit, but now the small bit it's easier on the tree. It's important to find a level spot for your bucket. Then you can place where you want the tap to be, and then you can go ahead and drill it there. What you want to do is drill the hole and then learn that it won't make it to the bucket. see the C painted on this tree. That means this is a cherry, and this is just a big cherry. This would make a great live edge table. So tapping trees in the winter is just a nice winter activity to be outside, and it's not quite as of a nuisance as whenever it gets really cold outside, because you know it's coming next. So we've been out here for about an hour. This is the first tree that we tapped, and you can see there's a little bit of liquid in there, so that's a good sign. And we have a bunch of trees tapped, and we're expecting to get about, I'd say, 40 gallons of sap, which would boil down into about 1 gallon of syrup. So whenever you are boiling down the syrup, it's a good opportunity to cut up some of the dead wood in the forest, and then we can use that to fuel the fire to boil the syrup. We put this in a few months ago, probably about a month ago, and it was $60, but they lowered it down actually to $1. But the thing is, we planted this here, and we're in the woods. There's trees everywhere, yet the deer choose to chomp on this tree. Like, there's literally a tree here, and a tree here, and a whole forest of trees there. But no, they know that you planted this one, and they're going to chew on it. Here's definitely a problem we need to get rid of. Big old hornet's nest in that bush. Don't want to get too close to it. You have a bucket full of sap. It's a good idea to keep it cold so you can push it into like a snowbank that the plow pushed up, and then that'll keep it from going bad. So this is the very first tree that we tapped whenever we first got started in tapping trees, which is about 4 years ago. And you can see how flexible this hose is. You can put it just about anywhere, and that's why people like these. Important whenever you're out in the woods to put on insect repellent, especially whenever it warms up and you're tapping the trees. The ticks will be waking up and they'll be out in full force, so make sure you're wearing this stuff because you don't want to mess around with Lyme disease. So here's an old stainless steel wringer washer tub that we welded a plug in the bottom so it can hold liquid, and whenever we're not boiling syrup, we actually have this catching the water that runs off the chicken coop so that they have water.